The possibilities that lie in the future are infinite. When I say it is our duty to remain optimists, this includes not only the openness of the future, but also that which all of us contribute to it by everything we do. We are all responsible for what the future holds in store. Thus, it is our duty not to prophesy evil, but rather to fight for a better world. Bobbity Bobster.
Hey everyone, Hermes and Hunter of Reason here. Today I'm going to be talking about optimism, which is yet another key idea in David Deutsch's book, The Beginning of Infinity. And it is the complete opposite of this book! Our Final Hour by Sir Martin Rees. Rees's book is all about basically doom and gloom in terms of the 21st century. It says that humanity has a 50-50 chance of surviving this century, and that this is just like a critical time in human history where we're developing technologies that are so dangerous they can end all of civilization, and that there's this bottleneck that humanity has to go through in order to evolve to the next stage, which I'm pretty sure Rees, I don't know if he considers himself a transhumanist, but I know that he's written about transhumanist type ideas where he talks about humanity going beyond like our biological substrate and then becoming transhuman and then post-human. But mainly he thinks we are psychologically and politically not at all equipped to be able to handle this period of rapid innovation. And so he compares the human condition in this sense with Russian roulette. I think David went on Sam Harris's podcast, maybe it was the first time out of the two times that he's been on. He responded to Sam at one point saying, "You made 3 arguments there, all of which are wrong." And this definitely applies to this Martin Rees argument here. And I don't know about just 3. It seems like to me there's quite a bit of misconceptions contained in the argument. And indeed, I think both David Deutsch and Karl Popper expose so many misconceptions in just many of the traditional ways that otherwise rational people think about the world and the future of civilization. It's really just fascinating to see how the dominoes just fall once the Popperian, Deutschian ideas start to click. You really start to see the dominoes fall in a lot of the ideas that are communicated by these popular science and reason communicators of today. But just as many of those communicators don't still understand reason, which again, really, I think Popper was the first to lay out, basically problem solving via error correction. There's this absolutely key idea that still doesn't seem to have caught on. Basically, there's so many scientists today who think that scientific prediction, even though they don't think of it as prophecy, end up using scientific predictions as prophecy. And Popper shows that the growth of knowledge can't be predicted. Induction is a myth. We don't actually derive knowledge from our senses or from data. We recreate it, we guess about what something means, we test that guess and we criticize it, and we seek good explanations. And so this is what David calls the ineluctable fact of the human condition, namely, we cannot know what we've yet to discover. So if we expect to create new knowledge to solve our problems, the human condition can be nothing more different than Russian roulette. And that's because the human condition is creative and can use reason, which allows for progress. And in situations where progress is being made, new knowledge is being created, you can't look at the future in probabilistic terms. You have to leave it open to some new thing that you didn't know was going to solve some problem that you do know about, and that itself is going to create new problems which you then even can't know at that point. And so there is, like I was saying in my last video, we have this incredible ability to create new explanations and just keep going with that effort. There's a limit on the reach of explanations, which is basically that no explanation can predict the content of the better explanation that will eventually supersede it. If we knew how to solve our problems now, they wouldn't really be problems. We have problems, we don't know how to solve them, so we have to be creative. We have to think of something new. And it's always been that way. People like Martin Rees and, as I was saying, a lot of the people in the rationalist community treat our problems today as very unique. And I mean, they are unique, but only for the situation. There's nothing unique about the fact that we have to solve our problems in order to survive. And that's basically what Reese and a lot of these people are worried about, that we're not going to solve our problems in time. But that doesn't leave us in a unique period in human history. Um, it has always been the case that we have to solve our problems quick enough in order to solve them, in order for them not to overcome us. And the thing that I love that David said in his chapter on optimism was that civilization has been destroyed many times before by simple technologies like fire and the sword. So there's nothing about some global pandemic, nuclear catastrophe that is, I mean, yes, it can kill a lot more people because a lot more people are around today, but a lot more people is actually a good thing. And that's because people are problem solvers. Yes, they create new problems, but we need problems to make progress. So people are problem solvers and creators, and thus are agents of progress, potentially. I'm sure most people watching this video are familiar with overpopulation arguments, that overpopulation is this terrible problem. And those worries, at the time that they were very popular, they made predictions, really prophecies, that predicted, famine and horrible things happening. But this, again, is a mistake about human nature and is pessimism about human nature. There is no resource outside of people that is needed for progress to be made. People are the ultimate resource, by Julian Simon. And so it's about time that I actually said what David's principle of optimism is. It is that all evils are due to lack of knowledge. And so given that people are knowledge creators, there's no reason to be pessimistic. The idea that we're probably not going to solve our problems. We've always, as people, will always need to continue solving problems in order for us to survive. And that is our niche. Our niche as people is to solve problems via creativity and reason. If we think induction is still a thing, we're going to look around at the world and say, well, I can derive some idea about the future and give some prediction about whether or not this problem is going to be solved, but that ends up being prophecy because, again, if we're seeking good explanations, there's no explanation, however good, that's going to be able to predict the better explanation that supersedes it. Pessimism is so widespread today. This idea, I mean, you've got climate change, you've got President Trump, you've got all these different worries that people are tripped up about that are causing people to prophesy about what will end up happening given these things that we have now. These problems that we have now probably aren't going to be solved because look how destructive they are. Yes, that doesn't at all take into account what new solutions to these problems will be solved. And we need, as a civilization, as individuals, this attitude towards our ability to make progress in order to really make that kind of progress. I think that certainly if we're not going to do well if we think that we're inherently biased and irrational and all this stuff. That's just a recipe for, like an excuse for not solving the problem, for not thinking of some new solution because you don't see it as within your power. But it is within all of our power to think of some new creative solution to a problem that nobody has ever known before. And this, of course, comes back to Popper's epistemology, which is the only anti-authoritarian epistemology, theory of knowledge, that I've ever heard of. And I've surveyed a lot of the theories of knowledge from east to west. And the West has its dynamism. I mean, it has, Aristotle, who said that we can be certain, we can know that we have the truth. That's caused quite a bit of stagnation. But it is like the Socratic tradition and the Popperian tradition that says, hey, we're fallible and we can still continue to embark on this quest of knowledge creation, and we will always not know what new solutions can be created to solve the problems that we have. And we shouldn't let our intuition be biased by the fact that we look around us and we see our problems have yet to be solved. It's always going to be that way, and it's good that we have our problems. And so this is optimism. All of these bad things that we see now can be solved given the right knowledge. And it's up to us to create that knowledge quick enough so that the problems don't overcome us. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Please feel free to like and subscribe, and also leave any comments with feedback. I'd love to hear from you. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video, which is about the open society.